A routine traffic stop becomes the moment that brings a decorated police officer's career crashing down. When Officer Derek Sloane pulls over a black woman in an unmarked car for a supposed traffic violation, he approaches with gun drawn, racial slurs ready. What he doesn't know, she's not just another citizen to intimidate. She's Deputy Director Maya Washington of the FBI's Civil Rights Division. And in the next 15 minutes, everything Officer Sloane built over 20 years starts to crumble. This is a story of arrogance, abuse of power, and the kind of justice that doesn't whisper. It roars. Stick around. The twist? You won't believe it until you see it. Let us know where you're watching from and what time you found this. We read every single comment. Riverdale County had always felt like a jurisdiction at war with itself. Wealthy subdivisions and upscale shopping districts gave way abruptly to struggling neighborhoods. Perfect lawns and security gates barely masked the deep, unresolved tensions beneath. The sun had barely risen when Deputy Director Maya Washington began her drive across county lines. At 49, Maya carried herself with a quiet authority that needed no introduction. Her cropped, natural hair framed a face that radiated calm intelligence, and her observant eyes missed nothing, especially not the subtle ways prejudice manifested in even the most progressive spaces. Born in Detroit, raised by a police officer, father, and teacher mother, people often underestimated her. This Justice Department building, modern and gleaming with its reflective windows, had seen countless battles for equality fought within its conference rooms and hallways. Maya had walked its corridors for nearly 2 decades, first as a field agent investigating hate crimes in America's most resistant corners, then as a prosecutor who'd been determined to reform departments from the inside, and now as Deputy Director of the FBI's Civil Rights Division. She was one of the highest-ranking black women in federal law enforcement, and some old guard agents still couldn't quite accept that reality. Maya knew the price of breaking barriers. They didn't just question your credentials. They questioned your very right to exist in the spaces you'd earned. As she drove her unmarked government sedan down Riverdale's main corridor, she thought about the meeting ahead. The Riverdale Police Department had accumulated an alarming pattern of excessive force complaints, disproportionately targeting Black and Latino drivers. Today's meeting with their leadership wasn't a friendly check-in. It was an official warning. Her GPS indicated she was 5 minutes from the station when flashing lights appeared in her rearview mirror. Maya checked her speedometer. 3 miles under the limit. She sighed and pulled over, already knowing what this was. The cruiser behind her was unmarked except for the light bar now illuminating the early morning darkness. Maya put both hands on the steering wheel, visible as she'd taught countless civilians to do in her community workshops. The approaching officer moved with a swagger that radiated hostility, hand already resting on his holstered weapon as he approached. Maya recognized Officer Derek Sloane immediately from the case files. 3 excessive force complaints dismissed in the past year alone. Each victim, a person of color. Each outcome, insufficient evidence. Sloane didn't glance at Maya's face as he reached her window. "License and registration," he barked, flashlight beams sweeping aggressively across her interior. Maya remained motionless, her mind already calculating what would come next. The teenager she'd been would have been terrified. The woman she was now felt something else entirely: determination. "I said license and registration now," he snapped, his beam lingering deliberately on her face before dropping to her hands. "No sudden movements." Maya responded evenly. "My credentials are in my jacket pocket, officer." Sloane finally focused on her face, confusion momentarily replacing arrogance. He was assessing her. Business suit, government vehicle with federal plates, perfectly maintained interior. Something didn't fit his usual profile. "You some kind of lawyer?" he said with a smirk. Maya didn't answer. She kept her hands visible, waiting for permission before reaching for her ID. "I asked you a question," he said, his voice hardening as he unsnapped his holster. A deliberate threat. The road was empty, No witnesses except the dashcam. Maya knew these officers often forgot to activate. Sloane, now clearly irritated, pulled his weapon and held it at his side. "Step out of the vehicle, now." "I said get out of the car," Sloane repeated, and then it happened. He yanked open the driver's door, gun now raised to head level. The interior light flashed on, illuminating them both in harsh fluorescence that made even the air between them seem to vibrate with tension. Maya didn't move. Slowly she turned her head, locking eyes with the man who now held a service weapon pointed at her face. Sloane stepped back slightly, surprised by her composure, but not lowering his gun. "You people never learn, do you? When an officer gives you an order, you comply." "Officer Sloane," Maya said quietly, "I am reaching for my credentials now." Someone in a passing car slowed down. "Oh my God," a voice called out. Another voice. "Should we stop?" But Maya's gaze never left Sloane, who remained oblivious to the trap he was springing for himself. "I don't care who you think you are," Sloane continued, gun still trained on her. "Get out of the car now, hands where I can see them." Maya complied, with deliberate, measured movements. As she stepped out, Sloane immediately moved to push her against the vehicle. "I'm reaching for my ID," she said calmly. "My name is Deputy Director Maya Washington, FBI Civil Rights Division." Sloane paused for only a moment, then scoffed. "Yeah, right. And I'm the Attorney General. Hands on the hood." The passing vehicle had stopped now, and a young couple stood nervously on the sidewalk, phones recording. "Officer Sloane," Maya repeated with unmistakable authority, "you are currently holding a federal officer at gunpoint. I suggest you verify my credentials before this escalates further." "Shut up and spread 'em," Sloane barked, but there was a new note in his voice, uncertainty. Maya moved her hand slowly toward her inner jacket pocket. "Freeze!" Sloane shouted, grip tightening on his weapon. "I am retrieving my FBI credentials," Maya stated, her voice carrying clearly to the bystanders' microphones. "Which you will. Verify my identity as Deputy Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Civil Rights Division. I am armed, which I am declaring now, and I will not be reaching for my weapon." Sloane blinked twice. For the first time, he was afraid. Maya carefully extracted her credentials wallet, opened it, and held it where both Sloane and the bystanders could see the gold shield and ID card. Even the young couple watching from a distance looked like they were holding their breath. One moment can change everything. What would you do if the power dynamic turned against you, without warning? Share your reaction below. Hit like and subscribe to the channel if this hit you too. "Officer Sloane," Maya finally said, credentials still extended. "Are you currently holding me at gunpoint after stopping my vehicle without probable cause?" Sloane lowered his weapon slightly. "I didn't know who you were." "That is not what I asked. Are you pointing your service weapon at a federal official during a traffic stop? Yes or no?" The young man recording had moved closer, camera steady. "Got it all, ma'am," he called out. "Every second." "You were speeding," Sloane attempted, the lie transparent even to the bystanders. "I was driving 3 miles under the posted limit," Maya countered. "Your dash cam will confirm that, assuming it's operating as required by your department's policies." Sloane glanced back at his cruiser. "You're twisting this into something it's not." "I'm not twisting anything, Officer Sloane. You pulled over, a black woman without cause, approached with weapon drawn, and escalated to deadly force within seconds. Your actions were captured on multiple devices." He glanced at the bystanders, then back at Maya. No backup had arrived, no partner to support. His version of events. "If I were a white male agent, would you have drawn your weapon before even requesting identification?" Sloane said nothing. His silence hung between them like a confession. "I'll take that as a no," Maya continued. "Now you've compounded an unlawful stop with brandishing a weapon against a federal officer." "Listen, these streets aren't safe," Sloane snapped. "I've got protocols." "Do not," Maya cut him off sharply. Insult us both by pretending this was procedure. Your own department guidelines expressly forbid drawing your weapon during a routine traffic stop without specific threatening behavior, which did not occur. She turned slightly toward the bystanders, her tone professional. Sir, ma'am, would you be willing to send that footage to the email address on my card? You're under no obligation, but it would be helpful. Absolutely, the young woman replied immediately. Maya returned her attention to Sloane. Please call your supervising officer to this location immediately. Sloane took a step back, finally understanding that the ground beneath him was shifting, rapidly. This wasn't going to vanish like the civilian complaints filed against him. No union rep would make this disappear. Maya glanced at the cruiser. Is your dashcam and body camera currently recording, Officer Sloane? Yes, he replied, automatically, though his hand instinctively touched his chest where the camera should have been activated. Good. The record will reflect complete documentation of this encounter, Maya said, noticing his tell immediately. Sloane's eyes darted to his cruiser, where a small indicator light should have been blinking. It wasn't. That was when his expression truly changed. He wasn't just defensive anymore. He was calculating. I didn't mean... He began again. Maya raised a single hand and stopped him cold. You've had how many years on the force, Officer Sloane? 15? I've reviewed your file. I've seen the complaints. I've seen how they disappeared. But here's what's different today. This happened to someone who can't be intimidated, who knows the law intimately, and who has the authority to ensure accountability. He opened his mouth again. I have spent my career investigating officers who mistake force for law, fear for proper procedure, and racial bias for sound judgment. Not today. She stood straighter, her voice carrying clearly to the recording devices. As Deputy Director of the FBI's Civil Rights Division, I am formally documenting this incident for immediate review. When the tide starts turning, do you stand firmer or back down? What would you do if power shifted your way? Let us know. Hit like and subscribe to the channel if this hit you too. Under Title 18, Section 242 of the United States Code, Maya announced, which prohibits anyone acting under color of law from depriving individuals of their civil rights, I am initiating a formal investigation into Officer Derek Sloane's conduct during this encounter. The bystanders exchanged looks of shock. Maya turned as another police vehicle approached. I presume that's your supervisor. Captain Richards, Sloane muttered, the color draining from his face. Officer Sloane, return to your vehicle and secure your weapon. You are not to leave the scene. You can't be serious, he protested, voice rising with disbelief. This was just a misunderstanding. I was following protocol for suspicious... For suspicious what exactly? Maya asked quietly, her eyes unblinking. A black woman in business attire driving under the speed limit in a government vehicle? Sloane looked around wildly, but Captain Richards was already approaching, face grim as he assessed the situation. No allies, no defense, just the consequences of actions he'd always been shielded from. The sound of car doors shutting echoed in the still morning air. Captain Richards approached, looking between Sloane and Maya with growing concern. Ma'am, I'm Captain Richards. What seems to be the issue here? Maya showed her credentials again. Captain, I was on my way to meet with Chief Bennett regarding your department's pattern of civil rights violations when Officer Sloane conducted an unlawful stop, failed to identify himself, immediately escalated to deadly force, and held me at gunpoint despite my clear identification as a federal officer. Richard's face hardened as he turned to Sloane. Is this accurate, officer? Sloane stood rigid, jaw tight and fists clenched at his sides like he was holding back a storm of rage. Maya remained composed, her gaze fixed on both officers. These citizens recorded the encounter. I suggest your department secure their contact information for the investigation that will follow. Agent Washington, Captain Richards said, visibly shaken. On behalf of the department, I want to express—" "It's Deputy Director Washington," Maya corrected him calmly. "And apologies are not what's needed here, Captain. Accountability is." Richards nodded stiffly. "Yes, ma'am, we'll handle this internally and—" "This isn't an internal matter anymore," Maya interrupted. "Officer Sloane violated federal law by depriving me of my civil rights under color of authority. The FBI will be launching a formal investigation into this incident and the pattern of similar incidents in your department." She turned toward the bystanders who were still recording. "What happened here today is symptomatic of systemic issues that extend beyond one officer. This department has received 23 excessive force complaints in the past 18 months. 17 involved minority drivers. 0 resulted in disciplinary action." The young couple recording exchanged glances. "We've been saying this for years," the woman said. "Nobody listens." "The FBI is listening now," Maya responded, making sure her words carried to their microphones. "What you witnessed today isn't about one traffic stop. It's about equal protection under the law." Sloane scoffed suddenly, unable to help himself. "Are you really going to turn this into some kind of social justice circus?" Maya slowly turned back to him. "Is that what you think this is, officer? Public accountability, a form of theater?" He said nothing as she approached him, stopping just outside arm's reach. "You've been protected for a long time, haven't you?" "My record speaks for itself," Sloane replied defensively. 15 years of service to this community. Commendations, arrests that have taken dangerous criminals off the streets. And complaints that disappear," Maya added. "Let me tell you what's about to happen. The FBI will open an official civil rights investigation today. The dashcam footage, if it hasn't mysteriously malfunctioned, will be secured as evidence. These witnesses have already documented the encounter. Your weapon will be secured, and you will be placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of both federal and departmental investigations." Sloane's mouth opened. "You're destroying my career over a traffic stop?" "No, Officer Sloane," Maya said firmly. "You destroyed your career the moment you chose to racially profile a driver and escalate to deadly force without cause." There it was, sharp and final. He shifted on his feet, looking around as more officers arrived at the scene. The bystanders continued filming, no longer afraid, but invested in witnessing justice unfold. "I've served this county for 15 years, Sloane said louder now, almost pleading. "I've put my life on the line. I've faced situations you can't imagine. And now you're going to let one mistake ruin everything?" Maya turned, walking back toward her vehicle. "I'm not ruining anything, Officer Sloane," she said. "I'm ensuring that the badge you wear is held to the standard it represents. Today, that badge doesn't shield you. It holds you accountable." Captain Richards spoke into his radio, requesting additional supervisors to the scene. "Deputy Director, will you be continuing to the station for your scheduled meeting?" "Yes," Maya confirmed. "Though I believe the agenda has now expanded significantly." As Maya prepared to leave, Sloane called out, just loud enough for her to hear, "You think you've won, don't you?" Maya didn't look back. She simply said, "No one wins when justice is merely doing its job." What would you do if the whole room watched you bring someone to justice? Stay strong or show mercy? Let's talk about it. Hit like and subscribe to the channel if this hit you too. "Deputy Director," Captain Richards said, approaching her vehicle window before she could drive away. "Chief Bennett is on the phone. He's asking if you'd be willing to handle this diplomatically. Maybe discuss it at the station rather than in the field." Maya didn't take the phone Richards offered. She stared at it like it was a weapon, silent but heavy. "Tell the chief I don't serve diplomacy when civil rights are violated. I serve the law." There was a long pause before Richards nodded. "Yes, ma'am," he said, returning the phone to his pocket without another word. One of the bystanders whispered to the other, "She just shut down the chief." The other responded, About time someone did. The balance of power in this roadside scene had shifted completely, not with sirens and shouting, but with quiet, unwavering principle. Maya took a moment, feeling the weight of what was coming. This wasn't just about Officer Sloane anymore. This would trigger a department-wide investigation, media attention, political pressure. There would be resistance. From the police union, from city officials worried about lawsuits, from those who'd benefited from the status quo. Somewhere deep down, she knew this would cost her. In political capital, in relationships with law, enforcement agencies, in the comfort of being welcomed rather than merely tolerated. But she also knew the cost of walking away, and she wasn't paying it. Maya reached for her secure phone, the direct line she rarely used outside of major operations. She dialed the Attorney General's office, bypassing 3 levels of bureaucracy. "This is Deputy Director Washington. I need to speak with the AG immediately regarding a civil rights emergency in Riverdale County." She paused, then added, "And dispatch the special response team to secure records before they disappear." Captain Richards straightened, suddenly understanding the scale of what was unfolding. The other officers exchanged nervous glances. "No," one spoke. They just watched as their department's future changed in real time. Sloane, still standing by his cruiser with another officer watching him, let out a bitter laugh. "You're serious? You're actually going to turn this into a federal case, not turn it into one," Maya replied, lowering her phone. "Recognize that it already is one." She started her engine. "Captain Richards, I suggest you secure Officer Sloane's weapon and credentials immediately. The FBI team will be here within the hour." Outside, sirens began to rise in the distance. Not urgent, not chaotic, just steady. On schedule. 3 months later, Maya sat in the federal courtroom as the judge delivered the verdict. Officer Derek Sloane found guilty on all counts: deprivation of rights under color of law, making false statements, and obstruction of justice for attempting to delete dash-cam footage. The investigation had expanded beyond Sloane. 4 other officers faced similar charges. The police chief had resigned. The department was now under federal oversight, with mandated reforms that would take years to implement fully. Maya removed her glasses, folded them carefully, and placed them in her jacket pocket as Sloane was led away in handcuffs, not for a momentary lapse in judgment, but for a pattern of behavior finally exposed to the light. "5 years," whispered one of the civil rights attorneys beside her. "That's a message that will be heard across every department in the country." The courtroom stayed quiet long after the proceedings ended. Not stunned anymore, sobered. Maya gathered her files and stood. "This is what the law looks like when it protects everyone equally," she said to her team. "And we're not done." Then, she walked out, not with triumph, but with purpose. The camera lingered on the empty defendant's chair, the space where a badge once seemed to place its wearer above the law. A symbol, not of a system broken beyond repair, but of one beginning. The hard work of healing itself. This wasn't about one officer, one traffic stop, one moment of bias that escalated to danger. This was about what happens when accountability replaces impunity, when silence breaks, and someone finally says, "Enough." Real justice doesn't seek vengeance. It doesn't demand spectacle. It simply requires that the scales remain balanced, regardless of who stands before them. Like Deputy Director Washington, we don't need power to make a difference. We need principle. Because justice doesn't begin in courtrooms. It begins with each of us refusing to look away. Like, share, and subscribe now.